sirens blare. Feel the static in the air. Next gen rising, we don't care about the fear clinging there. Step in line, hear the beat drop. Body, mind, so we don't stop. We won't stop. Train it up, train it high. Next gen reaching for the sky. Push the limit, don't ask why. This is how we're born to fly. March to the future, neon glow. Through the fire we will grow. Every move a deadly flow. Next gen rising, let it show. Eyes ahead, the rhythm calls. Stand up tall, we break the walls. Train it up, train it high. Next gen reaching for the sky. Push the limit, don't ask why. This is how we're born to fly.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Next Gen Training here on the Sparta HQ Network. I'm Mr. Bennett, joined by my partner, as always, the coach, Coach Ferg, in the building. And he really is a coach, ladies and gentlemen. He is coaching fifth and 6-year-old girls and on their basketball teams and whatnot. So, certainly coach how that's been going. I know last week you worked yourself up to where you didn't have a voice really last week. So I heard you yesterday. You sound a little bit better. So I'm hoping, you're finding your groove and maybe you're being a little nicer to the girls now and you don't have to yell them as much. But what's going on with you, sir?
What's up, Brother Benny? Can you hear me clearly?
Oh yeah. Like I said, you sound a lot better last week. I didn't know you're going to make it, bro.
Listen, man, well, I'll just say, and I spoke about it again, yesterday. I'm excited about what I saw. I think we have a lot of good upside with my fifth graders. My fifth graders, they're working as a team. They're communicating. I like what I see out of them. We still got to work on our shooting. A lot of them's forms is off, but they recognize work on my shooting. They got two hand push shots. They have everything working for them, but they're working hard. They understanding the setup plays, just instinctive basketball. Sixth graders, a little bit more mouthy. Had a meeting today. Found out girls had issues with each other. One girl is calling the little white girl is calling the two black girls bees, but she said that they think that they better than everybody else. So I had to flush that out today. So seem to have a better practice after that. Got a chance to set up a little group meet with all the parents. That's been helpful, and a parent has really been helpful. So a salute to her, man. But now, we have maybe 6 more practices than our first game. So I'm excited. 10-game season, really quick.
Oh yeah, that is quick. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how they play as we get into our games. But we played in front of about 200 people, maybe 250 people yesterday.
Mhm.
with the lights at the big high school gym,
Right, right,
and
right.
they did fairly well, you know.
Mhm.
So I was impressed with the defense, and we'll see how we go forward. But you know, it's really been a eye-opening experience for me, though. Just this whole, I want to coach. I want to coach. All the interviews I went on, and then get this job, which really was the least one I wanted to take,
Mhm.
but I believe it would be the most rewarding,
Mm.
you know, because it makes me have to really teach and tap into my teaching skills of the game. See,
Right.
if I was had older girls, then I could get right into showing them specifics of, you know, positioning thing. Like with these girls, I gotta show them how to dribble, how to play defense, stance, bend their knees, slide their feet. So I'm starting with a lot of the basics, and we've been this is our third week of practice, so we really are doing fairly well from, you know, what I saw last night with the other team. And so I'm excited to see, like I said, a few more days to the first game. Um, if I come out 4-4, I'll be happy. If I
Mhm.
lose every game by 1 or 2 points, I'm happy.
Right.
And I've been expressing that to the girls. So
Mhm.
outside of that, man, you know, listen, man, I found out I got carpal tunnel in my right hand,
Mhm.
so I have an MRI next month, um, and some arthritis starting to just build up.
Mhm.
So we'll see, and it's in my hands too. You know, other than
Yeah.
that, you know, everything else I just manage, but I'm still kicking. You know, blood pressure's good. You know, they, my cholesterol is good. So you know, I just got to get these joints and things going. But
Right.
you know, man. So other than that, man, life is good, man. I'm still gonna do what I have to do, finish up the year strong. You know, we're not in a position where we have to panic in my house. You know, everything is good financially. Everything is stable. There's nothing that won't be coming in that should be coming in.
Mhm.
So yeah, just go sit back and hopefully like I don't know, by Christmas time the country can start leveling it out. And I'll say just start at zero. Just give everybody a blank check and say, here we go.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
So just to not
So
to get too personal. So again, I know the government, you know, still in the midst of a shutdown and whatnot. So but does that affect you in any way? I know there's certain essential services that are open, like Social Security and whatnot, but has it affected you and your ability to get access to certain services and whatnot? Are you straight?
I'm straight.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yes, there's nothing that even through the VA, you know, I put in a claim in August and it's already settled.
Mhm.
It
Good.
usually takes 6 months to a year,
Ooh.
depending on, you know, it's like it was in waves. There was years where they didn't have enough workers to move a claim along.
Right.
Then they hired a lot of federal workers to do that. Claims were moved along. This was during the Bush eras and things like that. And then he implemented the Gulf War syndrome thing because a lot of soldiers experienced the same issues that I've had years before me, and they was trying to brush it off, so they got passed. And then they had the post 9/11 where veterans were getting their benefit. But for me, it's always moved at a steady pace.
Mhm.
I've never had to wait an extended period of time to get final results of approval or anything.
Mhm.
So even with this claim in August being settled before the month of October is over, that's like 3.5 months, and
Yeah.
it's in my favor to last me, you know, going forward based off what I get. That's all guaranteed to the rest of my life. Yeah,
Awesome.
we can live comfortable off of it.
Gotcha. Gotcha. That's great. It's great to hear. Great to hear. But yeah, man. I mean, things are good on my end. I turned 56 on Monday, and you know,
Salute,
so I'm
man. Happy
just
birthday, man.
thank you,
October, baby.
thank you. So just appreciative. You know, I still have a certain modicum of health and strength. I actually put a comparison photo up. I took a shot of myself in a workout top at age 52. And then I did like a comparison. So I kind of, spliced the pitches together at 56. And so I don't see too much, drop off or what have you. I think my back is probably my best feature, and that still looks pretty good when I do the lat spread in the back. Certainly I still got the wings there, and so feeling overall, feeling pretty good. Fam took care of me. It's nice to have adult kids because they pick up the check and they take
Yeah.
you out for lunch. Before, when we were growing up, they were like, "Well, Dad, we were going for your birthday," knowing that I was going to be paying for it. So now it's like it's okay when the girls be like, "Nah, we got you, Dad." So it's good when you have that kind of just to see the fruit of your labor and what they're able to do and things that they're looking to willing to take on. So had a pretty good week so far. Workouts still pretty good. Like I said, for me, the finish line is the starting line. So I'm already calling this year. This is Project 57, and just working towards another year, and just making sure that I'm fit enough to continue to do the things I was able to do this past year, to travel, to just have movement. Because again, one thing when you travel, you see a lot of times, just the state and condition other people are in. Some people need a wheelchair to get to and from the plane, or we said when we went to Grenada early last month. We had to go down, like, the airport didn't have one of those arms, that comes out and gets you off the plane, that you walk off the ramp. You had to walk downstairs
Yeah.
off the plane to get down to the floor. So, it's like, just the fact that you have, freedom of movement to do pretty much anything you want to do. And then when we were there, like I said, it's a very hilly, hot place. And, certainly you need a certain level of good stamina and condition to take the heat as far as do all the walking that you're going to be doing up and down hills. And, so it's just good to have that modicum of fitness that, you can take on and experience more things rather than saying, hey, I need to lighten up on some things. So I'm still pushing hard until I can't. And then we'll see, if I have to make some modifications, certain movements and whatnot. Squatting, I'm starting to lay off a little bit, but I'm doing some alternatives that are certainly showing some early dividends. But I will return to squatting. But I just wanted to give myself a break because I was hitting those pretty hard there for a minute. So I'm just going to put those on shelf for now and then cycle it back through at a later time. But as long as I'm showing results with the current program, I'll stick with it. But other than that, feeling good overall. Again, physical is good, intellectual, emotional, all very good. Spiritual is very good. And again, in these days, certainly just simplifying life and appreciating the day. I think for a lot of people, you worry so much about the future and you can't let go of the past. And you can't really appreciate the times and you're in the things that you're doing, like the fact that you're, coaching at this level at your age and whatnot, and just enjoying the process and seeing the changes that happen with these girls. Like I said, this could be one of the most rewarding experiences. But people worry about what they did yesterday or what's going to happen with the games or the season or whatnot. And like you said, if you go 4-4, or if you go, lose a lot of games, but the games are close, you appreciate, from where you started, and you appreciate where you're going. So I think that's just becoming more a way of life that I'm adopting, that I'm just going to be grateful for the day. And it's kind of hard to be angry because then you're going to be wasting a lot of your day on energy and feelings and thoughts that, really don't have to be there. So, so certainly those are the kind of moves and transitions that I've been doing, certainly as I've aged and just appreciate this time. But, I'm just keeping it moving until I can't anymore. And so I'm still going to push it, as far as my body and my mind will let me go with it. And we'll see what happens. But certainly for those who will be joining us tonight, want to know how your pies are. Certainly if you want to drop, how you doing, put that in the chat. And, certainly we'll make sure we highlight those during the course of the show. But, certainly a new feature that we're looking to implement. So again, if you're in the back, if you can load slide deck up, and again, make sure that we are minimal, put us on the right side or what have you of the slide deck. But if you can bring that up, and so we can not only start the show and also promote some of the things that we're looking to take, where we want to take the channel with. So David, as soon as you can, or Peter's in the back, either one of you guys, if you can load the deck, we can take it from there. But until that comes up, I'll just talk generally about today's show topic. So I know the topic on the slide when you came in tonight: home ownership and real estate, what you need to know before buying. That is something we're actually going to do probably I would say the next show. I think really what we wanted to talk about today was, I think, buying versus renting. Because again, that's one of the biggest decisions that you're going to make in life: where you go to school, where you're going to live, who you're going to marry, and whether or not you're going to buy a home or will you continue renting. So these are some major decisions, and it's never too early to start thinking about these things. And we want to be able to just give you some perspective, some of the pros and cons, because not everybody necessarily is in position to buy. And again, there's pluses and minuses to that, sort of thinking and whatnot. So we just want to raise up tonight just some of those pros and cons, so you can have an understanding of what to look for, and make sure that you're in position. Certainly, like I said, certainly going to be one of the largest investments that you're going to make is the purchase of a home. And so just make sure that you know the game before you get started. And certainly in this economy where, there's actually a housing shortage, and people, are looking to buy a home, but because of the shortage, prices of homes have dramatically increased. So for a lot of people, making that decision is hard as what it used to be. I think around the time I was buying, it was a relatively easy decision. But certainly for people today, but you got to start thinking about renting. I mean, just the especially in my area. I don't know what's, Coach, in your area. What's your area, Louisville? What's the average rent in your area? Not considering like downtown Louisville, but in the surrounding area. Like what kind of would you be paying for rent, and what kind of place you think you can get for let's say 1,500? Will that get you something nice in your area, or you got to go up a little bit?
Well, I think in the overall city, 1,500 could get you a 2-bedroom apartment in a relatively safe neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't rented in years, so
Yeah.
last apartment I had in Chicago, man, I was single. I had a nice apartment, and it was only paying like $550 a month. Had secure entry and exit. It was a nice one. I had 22 kitchen cabinets, doors. Had a front door, a back entrance that was secured. So that I couldn't tell you. When me and my wife first got married, when we got our first place, it was like $1,200 a month renting, and then we found our first townhouse in a perfect neighborhood. Like I said, that's when I moved to the National Monument, and we got that. We bought that property for.
When you said the National Monument, what does that mean? What do you mean?
Around the country, there's specifically like Mount Rushmore, like Great Smoky Mountain parks. They have national parks and monuments, the Lincoln Memorial, things like that, right?
Right.
So Pullman is a city in the south side of Chicago. It was a working town city, and I explain it, but it was on the south side of Chicago by Mr. George Pullman. He built luxury rail cars of the time, and his companies paid to have his rail cars, which were luxury cars like sleeping cars, parlor cars, and they paid to have his train cars on their train line. And they paid big money. And he hired African Americans who were former slaves to be the servicemen on those trains. So, and the reason why I had a lot of respect for him, because at one time in the late 1800s, he employed maybe 30,000 employees, and over half of them were Black. And they were making roughly at that time cash money working on those trains, equivalent to $85,000 a year today. So
Nice.
when I was working there, and I used to read through that history and how they had a high level of work ethic, a high level of I guess work performance that they performed on those trains coming of slavery. It just gave me a whole different respect for them in what they were able to accomplish. They were buying homes at an alarming rate for
Mhm.
people coming into the 1900s. They were sending their children to the best colleges and schools around the country,
Right.
and most of them had come out of slavery. Now, so 2015, President Obama took his entire area because it's known for the Pullman Porters, and you've heard that name
Yeah. Yeah.
before.
I have. Right.
So that's where it originates from. So he took that whole sector, maybe, and you have to, if you ever get a chance to go to Chicago, find out where it's on the south side of Chicago. It's a whole little section of houses, nice, where they have always been, they're townhouses now that were built for the people who worked for his company.
Mhm.
The only way you could live there, you had to work for his company. And they revitalized a lot of that neighborhood, and they still revitalizing it. And we saw that property, one of the first that they revitalized. It was everything in it was brand new. Had a full basement, had a carport in the back. It was 50. It was about 30 steps from the bus stop. About another 1,000 steps, 500 steps to the CTA. I mean the
Mhm.
Metro line, which is the federal line that runs straight downtown Chicago. So it was in a perfect place. My son used to walk to school. Uh, so it was a really good neighborhood. And now it's, the National Monument. So anything happened over there, you on federal grounds.
Gotcha.
But
Gotcha.
that was one of my first properties that I invested in. And it's right now it's a value that like what they were doing over there.
He's trying to load the slide deck, so he's
Okay.
kind of all over the place. But yeah, that could work. That could work for now. But you might want to put us like on the side, rat versus on the bottom. Uh, so either way works. But yeah, I was saying at the beginning, again, we're going to be promoting this as an aspect of the channel, and hopefully, we're depending on you guys, certainly to help us drive content. So again, we want to have a segment, and we want to have future segments where we have this Ask the Coaches segment. So you can certainly, put your questions up. And, so I'm just looking at looking in the queue. So I'm just looking for certain questions to come up, drop your questions there. And that question could be a discussion topic for a future show. So make sure that you put your questions there. Make sure you share the information, nextgentraining101 at gmail.com. And you can again put your information there, and we'll post the question like on the board here, like as a question, and then we'll have a discussion on it. Hopefully we can take 2-3 questions per show, and I'll make up an entire show just talking about those particular topics. So again, we want to talk less and really start to listen and engage with the audience, and just give our wisdom. Like I said, we're not experts here. We're just two guys, seasoned guys in our 50s, over 55, who we're not ready for the retirement communities yet, but we are still trying to be productive in this world and work with people who want to be worked with. So certainly, anything you have for us, we'll give you our honest opinions on those things. Don't take it as gospel, though. Go research yourself and whatnot. So one of the things that we're doing here as well is we're just giving you some food for thought that you can then go and do further research with, and hopefully come to your own conclusions that'll be informed about how to go about and operating in this world. So again, this next set of shows that we're going to be working on, again, we're going to be dealing with this idea of real estate renting versus owning is what we really want to go into tonight. The next show we'll probably go into home ownership and real estate, what you need to know. So I'll get some tips if you're considering about buying a home. But again, that's not something that you enter in lightly. Now, I bought my first home, my first townhome in 1996. I got married and met my wife and got married shortly thereafter. So I bought my first property. I moved in May 9th. May 16th. I moved in at 96. I was married the following February. So the lot went on that year as far as getting the house, meeting my future wife. I proposed to her in October that same year, and we got married the following March. So certainly a lot of moving parts, and I've never owned an apartment. So again,
Wow.
2001, had a house built that I'm still currently in, and so yeah, so I've never been a renter, but certainly growing up though, like I said, growing up and with my dad and my brother and whatnot, certainly we lived in an apartment for 20 years, and so I've seen both sides of it, kind of how it works, and some of the benefits that you can certainly get from it. But we're gonna go over some of those pros and cons, and then so don't think that timing I think is everything, and so there's a right time for you to buy and buy into the market. And again, you also have to be mindful of again where you're at now. Again, this what we're also going to be sharing. A lot of what we're sharing today is from a U.S. perspective. Just
Yeah.
looking at the notes
So,
that have been shared.
so Brother
So again,
Benny,
yeah,
before you go, I want to ask you a question, right?
sure thing.
Because you said you purchased your home, then you met your wife, right?
Hmm. Right.
So just prior to that, did you? Well, I could assume what the answer is. Did you always assume that you knew that you wanted to purchase a home first before you know what I'm saying, before you met a wife or settled down, or just how it
Well,
just
yeah, I,
itself
I
out?
I always had in my mind that owning was better than renting. Well,
Yes.
the idea was, why am I going to put say 1,000, 1,500 into an apartment where that's just money just kind of pouring down the drain. Like I said, I lived in an apartment for 20 years. And so
Okay.
my dad
Okay.
would pay rent,
Okay.
or
Okay.
I would pay rent all that time or whatever, just, growing up that way. And what do you have to show for it at the end? You have no
Right.
equity, you get no tax benefits. And so my thing was, yeah, and if I had the means to put a decent down payment on in a house, which you can at by 96, I was able to put down a nice down payment. And I think my first condo was my townhouse. I think it might have been 108,000, I believe.
Yeah.
For some reason, that's coming to mind. 96, 97. So about 108,000. So I was able to put a nice down payment on there. I had no problems getting loan because I had some decent assets at the time. And so yeah, so it was like almost a no brainer that I was going to, as soon as I could, move into something. Meeting the wife. I mean, I kind of knew her for a few months, but certainly we had our first date. It's like I um, closed on my place May 16th of 96. Our first date was May 9th of
Okay.
1996. And so it was, so like I said, it was just a lot of moving parts. But I know it got to a point, and it's weird too. The main impetus, also, I got to tell you, the main impetus that moved everything. And as you get older, you just realize that everything happens for a reason,
Yeah.
and that there's nothing. I got into a huge fight with my dad,
Oh.
who he was a little on something. He had to, he loved to smear off vodka, but I was ticked off coming home because that was the night. It was Super Bowl 30. It
Wow.
was the Steelers versus the Cowboys, and my Steelers lost. And I was really upset because I thought we had the momentum, we had the game, and then, Neil O'Donnell throws that interception to Larry Brown to kind of ice the game and whatnot. And I was just in no mood to be talking. And so when I got home, I got into a big fight with my dad, and it got to a point where it was like, look, I got to get out of here. And it was like at that point, it was kind of just me being at the age that I was at, and things starting to boil over. And yeah, it's like, yeah, I think it's time for me to go. And but that just was the domino that had everything. The place that I got, my sister helped me go to a local realtor to look for properties and whatnot. So the place that I got, and then meeting her, and then all the things that just happened since then. Everything seemed to be just lined up. So it wasn't like you know it wasn't like it was just something that I just had to evolve to. It's like, one, I had to get out, but like I said, I had planted pretty early. Owning was better than renting, and so. But like I said, we're going to go through this some tonight. You just be mindful of the pros and cons before you just kind of go in and make the decisions on that. As far as doing that, so let's get into some of this in terms of the some of the pros. So again, renting versus buying. And the thing about it also is, I think, and it's interesting because I went one time. We were in South Carolina on a family reunion, and I know they had some decent trailer park complexes, and unfortunately, when I'll say mobile home, because trailer park has a stigma to it that I don't want to necessarily entertain, but let's just say mobile communities. And we actually stayed in one, and I thought it was one of the best values. I was like, wow, because I remember when I was very small, that you talk about before 4, 5, 6 years old, I lived in the South for a while, and I lived in trailer parks for a minute. My uncle, he had one, so we stayed there. And I just, in my mind, I just didn't recall what they were like. And but this one here, it was like it was an Airbnb, and just from the pictures, it looked nice. And then when we got there, it's like, wow, this is not a bad spot. Um, if you're just starting out. Now the thing is, can you sell one if you want to get rid of one? Can you, what is the upsale value on it if you decide to get one or not? But it was 3 bedrooms. So again, it was plenty of rooms. Myself, my wife, my kids. We were there for the reunion, and space. It was modern, and so I was like, even this, it would be a nice starter. So I think with some people, you think that a lot of people think buying a house, you got to buy like a 3, 4, 5 bedroom house, and it's got to be worth over $1 million or whatever. But sometimes just getting yourself into the game, which is one of the reasons why I chose a more modest picture of a home. Because I think what I see with a lot of young people is it's like, oh, I don't want to live in a house like that. But it's the idea of, again, getting started. Again, where you start is not where you finish. So whether it be in a smaller, more modest home, the idea is, again, if you can build equity in that home and then use that as a catapult to something else later on, then again, that's not a bad thing. But I see what a lot of younger people think they don't want, unless it's like their dream house, they don't want to live in a house a lot of times. I don't know if you've seen that in younger people, but my thing is start get the concept of ownership and start building up your equity and your credit and things of that nature. That home ownership may give you something that renting may not give you. But again, like I said, there's some benefits. But what's your thoughts on that, Coach, as far as that first house? Or do you remember the first house that you bought, and what was that experience like, and whatnot? If you want to talk about that.
Oh yeah, and it's crazy because when I was single, I used to say I didn't want to be in the house by myself. I was going to wait till I got married. So
Mm,
I don't know. I don't know. It's just a luck or just blessings. I believe it's blessings because I try to do the right thing most of the time.
mm,
But I always was able to find a place with easy access to work that
mm,
was very inexpensive. It was
mm,
very inexpensive. It always gave me everything I needed in a safe. I was always lucky enough to get safe housing. I've always believed in finding a safe place,
mm,
and it was me by myself. Only thing I really had to worry about was, the love. I knew how to take care of furniture and my clothes. I wore a lot of professional style clothes when I was
mm.
going to work. So that was my biggest concerns. I've always had a car. So I was able to find some pretty decent places and play, especially in Chicago, paying $600 a month, $500-600 a month for 1 bedroom. Sometime when I first moved to Chicago, because that was the first time I really said, okay, I'm out in my own space.
Mhm.
I was in the military. You stay in the barracks, it was pretty easy. But when I
Yeah, so talk about that. It's like you're going from the barracks to a home. So it's almost like anything is an upgrade. It's kind of how you see it. You know what I mean?
Yes, because in the military, when you stay in the military barracks, even the military housing, they still do inspections on those units.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in the barracks, they letting you know weeks in advance. We doing an inspection. They go come through, making sure your room is clean,
Right.
making sure your clothes are tidy, nothing just mustying up the hallways, none of that. That doesn't happen.
Right.
In military housing, they do once or twice a year where they come through and you clean up your yard and you get the weeds out of the cracks of the yard or the front walkway. You dump out. And when I learned that early, I just took it outside of the military, and I've always took pride in keeping my place clean, keeping my place with some type of. I got away from lighting candles early. I just used the scented. I
Mm.
take a scented candle and put it
Mm.
on one of those little coffee mugs, and it
Yeah.
radiates for
Yeah.
3 or 4 days
Yeah.
until I need it. But yeah, I've always been able to find something pretty modern,
Mm.
decent neighborhood, close to work.
Mm.
Buying my first house was the Pullman property,
Mm. Gotcha.
and that was just 2014, and that was that was a few months after me and my wife had got married.
Gotcha. Yep. Yep. Well,
And
you
we
kind of
just
stayed
been
true to plan. So really, so 2014 was your first home
my
purchase.
first home, yes.
Wow.
Because prior to that, I was moving around. I
Right.
was in the military. I got out, went to college, came back home. Then my mother passed. I was planning on building my life in Louisville,
Mm-hmm.
but in less than a year and a half or two, my mother had passed, and
Gotcha.
it just took me back to another space where I could. And I'm glad I did it that way because it allowed me so much more opportunity than staying in Louisville, Kentucky. When I
Right.
went to Chicago, I was given abundance of opportunity.
Right.
You know,
Well, it's interesting you say that because we're going to get into again some of the pros when it comes to renting, and I think you probably touched on it. One of the things that's really at play. This will refresh. All right, so David, so I'm waiting for it to come up. So I don't know if that's on my side or it's on your side in terms of the stream. I'm waiting for this to come up. If it doesn't come up, then I think I'll just describe it. In fact, let me just bring it up on my end so that I can refer to it while it's still trying to refresh on the screen. So just give me a minute to bring this guy up.
I thought that was me. It's like the image is not connecting because you see it
Yeah,
going.
it's like it's so I don't know. David, also let me know if you want me to go back out and upload the document again. I can do that, but you just let me know what I need to do. All right, so he's telling me to reload it. So just give me a minute to see if I can do that. So I'm going to take this guy down, remove the source, and then I'm going to go back in and I'm going to go to presentations, and then I'm going to present it again. And okay, so see what you can do with that, David, and see if we can get that to come up again. But one of the things that we were talking about, what you were just talking about again, the flexibility that renting can give you over buying. In fact, I'm trying to find it now. We just have it to my PowerPoint. Hang on. I just had it up. Okay, so we're there. Let me see if I can get to it. Renting. Okay, the next one. Okay, right. So again, renting. Again, it gives you greater short-term flexibility. You can adjust the dwelling size with family condition, easier to move and find new opportunity or family. Again, home for a lot of people. Now, again, unless you're one of those people, and again, we're not real estate experts here. So unless you're looking at real estate as an investment, then, you typically, when you buy a house, it means that you're basically trying to set up roots somewhere. And so, getting it, but if you you're going to be moving around, so let's say you're young in your career. So again, last month we talked about all these shows concerning, networking, job, finding work, interviews and whatnot. So again, that may take you into another city. In some cases, it may take you into another country. So, knowing that going in and trying to buy a home may not be the best option, knowing that you're still exploring and being able to move. Or say, what if you're one of those people who travels a lot for work? And early in my career, I did a lot of travel. I spent a lot of time in Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina, Chapel Hill area for work. So, is it worth it to buy a home? And again, keep in mind also, this is before, like, I know you would have people who might, you might personally rent a place to or whatnot, but this is before Airbnb or some of these other concepts that we have today. But still, it's buying a home is, I guess, one of the biggest decisions that you'll ever make. So where you get it, doing your homework research, how safe the neighborhood is, the education system, all those things. But when you're renting, again, you can get in and out of a situation renting a lot more. Now, again, granted, you may have a lease, and typically leases go year to year. You may have to, if you got to move in a pinch, you may have to break that. But at worst, they're going to keep your security deposit. That's what that's for. And then you could just swallow that if you need to, and then move on to your next destination. So, Coach, when you're saying going from Louisville to Chicago is a big move, and I'm just wondering, would that have been an easier decision to make if you owned real estate down there? If you owned a house, would that have been as easy a transition for you to make if you had a property that you had to maintain, pay the property taxes on and all those kind of things before you made the move? So your thoughts on this one? I think you described it, but if you want to go a deeper dive into the flexibility that renting gives you, especially when you're young in your career and you don't know if and when you're going to be with a job or a position for any length of time.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it, just being able to rent in some capacities in the military. And you see it a lot when people are in college. They don't always necessarily get the full year lease. Some be 6 months, some be 8 months. They sort of lengthen it according to the time someone may be in school. So it's really beneficial for someone in those conditions. Um, I did used to think about it, because like I said, getting out of the military in 97 is when I got out of the military. And I knew I was going back to college. So I wasn't keen on, owning a home. And I was going to school down in Mississippi, and I didn't ever think that I would definitely be living in Mississippi outside of, going to school.
Right.
So I used to think about that, like, where would I settle down at? It wanted to be in Louisville. That's where most of my family is.
Mm-hmm.
But when my mom passed, and I saw from, relationships from my other family members, not as I believed it should be, but I did what I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And, once I met my wife, then I knew it was time to go ahead and settle down somewhere. And I ain't gonna say settle down, but we found some good places. And now in my life now, we're looking to find I guess, the upper room home, the home that we're going to pass on. We are in the middle of that right now. Right now, our financial situation is changing for the better. So, like I mentioned, we are in a more favorable position with home ownership as the condition of America today. We're blessed enough to be in that situation.
Right.
Because I still have the property in Pullman.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, making residual income.
Right.
And we're going to try Airbnb over the next, I think, starting our tenants will be moving out maybe March, April. So over that next year, we're going to try it. Because, again, being in that location, a lot of people visit the monument from around the world, Brother Ben.
Right.
And I'm not talking about just America. Matter of fact, there's families that travel from monument to monument every year getting badges and stamps. They got books this thick where you can go. And it's about over 400 national monuments and parks in the United States. So people travel their, summer vacations. People come from Germany, France, wherever, South America, Russia, Ukraine right now. They visit these places, and we want to allow those people to stay at our property for a nice little, piece of residual income. And, but yeah, now we're talking and we're preparing ourselves for this final destination move. This would be our last move of our entire life. And we're downsizing.
Yeah, I was about
We
to
don't
ask. I
need
was
as
about to
much
ask that.
space. So
Yeah.
we're going from a 3. And what we found, we're going from a 3-car to a 2-car with everything else still. I have to build out this basement where I'm at. In the next one, I don't have to build. Everything's brand new.
Right.
So that's where I'm gonna be at. I'm gonna be right
So what's the
there. I ain't going
timetable for you
nowhere.
guys within the next year or two to
Based off what we are now, no, we looking at about in the January, no later,
Oh wow, so
February.
you really
By my
moving.
birthday.
Wow.
Yeah, we actually are looking currently. We went to see some homes last week. We met with a realtor. She showed us a few. We're going back to some of those locations and go to the open houses. And we'll meet with them because we found a few that we really like. We're going to get them to sort of take care of privacy fence. And we have to get this one sort of on the market to get sold.
Right.
Then I made about, with far as the upgrades, I made maybe close to 20,000 in upgrades in the 2 years because we've only been here since 2023.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you bought the house in
And
Pullman back in 2014, and then you've been in this house up to I guess since 2023.
we had a home in Noblesville, Indiana, from 2019 to 2023. Made a nice little profit off of that.
Right.
Coming into this market, hey, I'm right now. If I make $500 over, Brother Bennett, I'm good.
Yeah.
But the next place, it's more, and I'm excited about it. Me and my bold wife, I've already bought some bins today. Well, 2 days, yesterday. I'm going out and get some boxes in the morning, and hopefully, when we put it up, we'll be ready to give it to a family that wants it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. But definitely having flexibility certainly is something you want, especially when you're young in your career. You haven't necessarily established your roots yet or your career path and whatnot. So certainly renting certainly gives you that advantage. Another advantage that renting will give you, okay, in terms of just real estate. I mean, the sales again, realtors usually can get up to 6%. On a home, it could take months to sell. So again, especially now, I know this is sort of what of a hot market because we know the demand for real estate is high, but for some people, they don't necessarily sell the house right away, and you got to live somewhere else while you're selling your home. So you can't necessarily live in the house that you're trying to sell. So again, those are things where again, if you want to keep your low light, these are things that you don't necessarily have to consider. If you're renting versus owning. It's not your responsibility to sort of move on the property. And like, Coach was saying, sometimes you may have to put those upgrades in, depending on the feedback that you're getting and whatnot. How old is your place? Is it in need of repair? Are there foundational issues with the house? Because again, you can go and get your house appraised, but it may not be what you might have thought it was. And in fact, especially, I know there was a story that came out a while ago. Some of these appraisers don't necessarily value all homes equally. There was a big thing where African American homes were getting lower appraisal values than the same house in a white neighborhood. So those are things that you got to be mindful of as well when it comes to that. So again, selling a home can just be as stressful as buying one. I actually lucked out with I said the first house I bought was a condo. We stayed there until 2001, so 5 years I was there. And actually, a good friend of mine from college, actually, he had a friend of his, one of his partners was in the complex, and they were in the process. They were building, a business. They were engineering students from Rutgers, and he needed a place. And he was like, "Look, you selling?" Because we had our place listed. We had realtors listing the house. People would come through, look at it and whatnot. Not getting a lot of interest. He was like, "Look, I'll buy your house right now. Your house is perfect. I got my man already in the complex. He was like 3 doors down. Your place would be perfect for us." Boom. I got my lawyer. We didn't go through realtor. We just handled it. So it was, like I said, everything in my case, everything just lined up the way it was supposed to line up. And so that was a very easy transition. I got the full profits on that. All I had to do was just pay my lawyer his piece and sign the paperwork, and we were done with it. And so it was just good, and we kept it. My lawyer is black, so we kept black business, and we just kept it in the fam. So so it was great. But these are things to consider also. Said for a lot of people it's stressful, and then when you start seeing, and some people, especially if you're not in a rush to get a house, you can wait it out. Some people, you may start, especially in my area, you may start at 850 and give it some time or whatever. That pain point, you dropping it down to 650 and 600, and so that could be a very stressful process for people who are looking to unload on the place, unless you're in a very high um high demand area where people will just scoop your stuff up. I mean, there are places and locales like that, but that's why they always say, with real estate, location, where you're living certainly matters, but a lot of things you can't even decide, because again, let's say you might be in an area that might be at a certain real estate value, but again, depending on that local economy, now businesses can come there. If they grow a lot of, if businesses come into that area, that increases the market value. That could be a great thing. But if business is bad in that area, and companies and stores and whatnot close down, then that can also depreciate your real estate as well. So a lot of factors that, again, if you're renting, that you don't have to deal with, that certainly to be mindful of. But Coach, with your how did you move with your sales? Did you I know you said you went to a realtor, but is that about right? That 6% figure sounds about right in terms of their take of the cut. And then when you for the house that you sold, how long was it on the market before you were able to get a buyer?
Well, just to work the questions backwards, our house was on the market about 3 weeks,
3 weeks? Oh, that's good.
and we had about
That's good.
a buyer, and they offered to pay more than what we had it listed
Mm,
for. We didn't have to do anything but throw in some new carpet. We did some touch up painting. I had built some shelves in the garage that held quite a bit,
mm,
and they loved that. There was some over the door, some on the wall that I built, and some uh, over in the
mm,
back where you couldn't
right.
see it once you. It was high enough, so it was the basement floor. We had completed the basement floor, found some cheap little
Mm,
tiles, maybe about $150, and then we had a full basement
right.
floor. We also left an old washer and dryer. We didn't really need it, but we spent about $1,000 to get it
Mm,
ready,
yeah.
just based off the carpet. And we had found some nice little cheap laminate
Mm,
flooring. I always look at $1 a square foot is good, and we probably need about 200 square foot, if that. But
yeah.
and they actually got into a little bidding war for it, so I was cool with that.
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's
yeah,
good. That's definitely great, especially
and
those who are
yeah,
going
so
through, if they trying to pay cash. That's like that
yeah,
rings too. If
I
you,
don't know what they was paying, Brother
yeah,
Bennett, but they paid. Now the 6% commission, like you said, that can be
hmm,
negotiated. For anybody looking for a home, you can always negotiate it up to 6%. Don't go over 6%. Start out at a reasonable, I would say 3.5%
mm,
or
yeah,
so, 4%, 4.2. It can be a tenth of a percentage. It doesn't have to be in whole numbers.
right, right,
As long as you negotiate it and it gets put in a contract, and they're going to take that off the top of the sale of your
yeah,
home. But again, now they got it's a lot of nuances. But again, I would definitely um, think about it, how far out you need to sell it. If you're relocating, give yourself enough time to get it on the market, especially with the events of today's economy. Uh, there are sellers out there. People are looking to buy homes, but just ensure that your home's bones are good. All of the, major things, the electrical's up to par, the plumbing is up to
yeah,
par, maybe a roof if it needs to be repaired. Uh, and get those things
Yeah.
done right before, and just basing off somewhere else to live, man. It's a good time to get to know your relatives, or if you saved enough, you know, you may be able to find a long-term stay. But yeah, you just have to think about that. The longer your house is on the market, it's almost like you have to make some concessions
Yeah,
and maybe
absolutely.
drop the
You know,
price too.
absolutely.
So
And again, we're gonna get into more of that once we get into. I think our next show is going to be on again home buyer tips. So some of these things we can certainly revisit in terms of things to do as you're looking to prepping a house for sale and whatnot. Because again, I know you got to make certain upgrades, certain things you have to do. You know, if you got a driveway, it needs to be done. Like I said, a roof, plumbing, any major structural issues, those definitely have to be addressed. But as far as carpet or tiles or whatnot, that one I might be a little more flexible on because again, you just don't know what the new buyer is going to do. Because you can put something down, they may just rip it all up anyway. So again, those things you might want to. And again, if you do work with a realtor or someone who knows about the home buying, they might be able to direct you on where if you are going to get a house ready for sale, they may direct you in terms of these things need to be addressed based on the inspection that's done or the assessment done by the appraiser. They'll kind of give you a list of things that hey, you might want to take care of this if you want the maximum amount, certainly for the house that you're looking to sell. But another point when it comes to one of the benefits of renting. So again, you're talking about um, that the down payment can be invested elsewhere. So this is just to give, and I even updated because the slides that you gave me, the dates were a little older. So I actually went and I just Googled and had some updates. So again, depending on your investment strategy, the market historically. Now, again, there's ups and downs with the stock market. There's been ups and downs with the real estate market, but traditionally, it says rather than concentrated wealth in a single asset, you can diversify your investments between 1928 and 2024. House prices increased 4.7% annually compared to stocks that gave you a 10% annual return within the same period. So again, we're not investors. We're not financial coaches like that. Again, talk to someone. But again, let's say if you're a young person, you may come into some money, um, and a few tens of thousands, $20,000, $30,000. Putting it into a house can certainly be a positive thing. And I know, Coach, you remember from the '90s and early 2000s that concept of flipping homes. That was like the big thing. How everybody's going to get rich. Put a few money in there, sell it, flip it. But then we had the housing crash, and that wrecked the economy lost trillions of dollars because of that kind of aggressive, when people started to look at a house as not a place just to live in, but they were looking at it as a almost a get rich quick kind of thing. And the market could only take so much, and then things just kind of went because you had people getting loans, for houses, and they didn't have the money really to qualify for the loans and whatnot. So, but I'm not going to go into a long, history lesson about what happened in that homeowners crash. But again, stocks again they've had their stories as well. But again, it's about flexibility. So you don't necessarily want to tie yourself down to a home if you're not ready to settle down in a particular place. And again, if there's other investment vehicles that you might want to consider putting your money into that has over, if you can outlast the trends, outlast the valleys. Again, stock market typically has a higher rate of return that over that of home ownership. Even though we think, man, these cost of these homes are really expensive now, but again, just looking over a historic period, stocks typically have done better over time. So, but that's something again you need to really get with some people who can really advise you on that. But that is something to consider if you're going to put a substantial amount of money into anything. Don't think just putting it into a house is like the safest bet because there's a lot of variables there that you need to consider. And in our future shows, we can go with that. But any thoughts on this one, Coach?
well, like you said, man, if you're gonna think about renting, buying a home, your home becomes a part of your assets. And just looking at this number from 1928 to 2024, house price increased 4.7% annually. Every year it's gone
Mhm.
up at least
Mhm.
4.7%. The prices, not necessarily the
Correct.
values.
Yes.
The values may not go up. And he's already mentioned before that, sometime, man, when it comes to home ownership and values, it may depend on your complexion.
Yeah.
The homeowner's value ain't the same as
Yeah, and this has been
your next door
this
neighbor.
has been
So
documented. So this isn't something, because I know
yes,
people talk about conspiracy and whatnot. No, I mean, you even had the HUD. They actually did, sort of undercover. They
yes,
came back with the results, and you talk about,
yes,
certainly if you're, black or brown, home values decrease up to 25% lower than what you would get. Again, same house. They even set up like sting operations. Same house. All they did is you take the black pictures off the wall, you put the white pictures on the wall, and then all of a sudden your house is worth more because of that. Now, again, hopefully they've taken steps to eliminate some of that, but again, those are some realities that we have to look at when it comes to home ownership as well. That's why, again, location matters, and just making sure that um, getting the best counsel and advice possible when you're making these kind of decisions. But again, something to consider, because again, it's not just about buying the house. It's about maintaining the house. So again, we've all oftentimes heard of the house being what they call a money pit, and you could start putting money into a house. Especially, you may think okay, I'm buying a house on the cheap, but again, the house might need like a new. Now you might be you, coach. Take me as the type of person you would take on a project like that. That you would take a house that may have some rough edges, it may need a new roof, it may need certain major upgrades, and you just look like that type of person. You're just going to take a hammer to it and just knock out a wall here and just redo stuff or whatever. Is that you, or you just want to take it easy and go in, or at least a younger version of you? It would seem like you'd be the one that would just take a house and just totally gut it and renovate it, buy it on the cheap, and then build it up and make something out of it. Is that part of who you are, or you more just, let me just get a place I can just slide on into and not have a lot of problems?
Brother Ben, it's interesting you asked me that question, right? My skill set coming out of the military is
Mm-hmm.
construction engineers,
I
right?
know. That's why I'm asking you too.
But however, I like to go into a place that it's everything that I need is already set in stone.
Mm-hmm.
I like my kitchen to be fully complete. I like my walls to be nice and smooth. My bathroom's done, bedroom. I like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there are certain things that I can do, like buying this home, basement's unfinished. Ooh, that's a perfect project.
Yeah.
And from April, I believe I completed it May, June, July, maybe August.
Mm-hmm.
My goal was to have it ready for before football season.
Right.
My wife didn't think I could do it,
Mm-hmm.
but it was done
Mm-hmm.
with everything ready to go.
Right.
So I'm that type. Yes, I don't mind getting up on the roof. I've yet to get up on this roof.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, I don't make
Right.
it. Hopefully, I don't have to. Right.
Yeah.
But we've had some hailstorms come through, and I let somebody go up there and look at it, and they was just trying to get a new roof. I don't need to put a new roof. My roof is good enough.
Yeah.
And who's to say another hailstorm won't come back
That
through?
is true.
So, but yeah, I mean, I think for me, it gives me a sense of pride to know that I can take care of some of those nuanced things of owning a home.
Mm-hmm.
I can do that. Even, in renting, I'm gonna let the renter take care of all that. I ain't
Yeah.
touching
Well,
nothing. So,
perfect segue, because
I
that
ain't
gets into
touching nothing.
my last point. Again, landlord liable for maintenance and repairs.
Yes.
So again, another advantage, because again, I've seen people, they go in and they put a lot of money in, and you may start out with a budget. That budget might be, again, 20, 25,000. that budget can easily double by the time you get done with everything. You start, going in, or your wife comes in and be like, you going to take that out? Then, why don't we do this over here too? And then it's like, oh, here we go again, with another thing. It's like you never quite finished with the spot. As soon as you build the deck on there, and it's like, we can also add this too, on there. So the thrill sometimes doesn't last very long once you do the upgrades to it. But yeah, definitely landlord again. If you have a good landlord, or a good, the landlord hires a good maintenance company to sort of take care of things, you let them handle that stuff. I would say the only downside to that would be, again, they're going to do it on their time, not necessarily on yours. So if your water main breaks, or you got a plumbing problem or whatever, you won't call the guy right away and get him out there. Now, if the place is like, okay, I'll take care of the repair, you guys reimburse me for it, then that might be something worth working out. But that would have to probably be in your lease agreement, because there's certain emergencies that you shouldn't have to be waiting on somebody to come, or waiting for the landlord to come, or it's Sunday, you can't reach the landlord in order to get certain things done. But those are all risks that you take. Certainly, I would say a risk against renting is that you don't have that control over when certain things are going to be done. They're going to do it on their time table, but not necessarily yours. But certainly, like I said, major repairs, though, yes, they're supposed to maintain. If your stove stopped working, or your fridge stops working, or all those things that's supposed to come with the place, yeah, you would think they would be taking responsibility for those things. But any further points on this one, Coach?
Two things real quick. I was looking at this tool display on this screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have everything that's here except the little tool that's by the screwdrivers that looks like a U shape. This little tool,
Yeah, yeah,
the black and silver.
right.
I think those are snips. You can see something similar
Mhm.
with guys who work on horseshoes with that tool.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So I have everything else.
Yeah, I think those are especially like wire snips. They can,
Yeah, yeah, your wire snips would be, but this tool is a unique tool.
Mhm.
It's sort of not necessarily for wires, but it's to pry things.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, it's interesting to say. But yeah, man, just my landlord experience, my worst landlord experience. I was living in this apartment, nice apartment. I like the apartment. Again, I like secured entrances, and it was right along the bus line, right next to a park with a great beach on Lake Michigan. I loved it.
Mhm.
Used to take my son, he ride his bike. We go play basketball and walk. We go fly kites. We used to do all that. I want him to experience everything that I did, because I did everything as a kid. I ain't gonna lie, brother Ben.
Right.
And something happened one day when the drainage system sort of backed up, but it flooded, my sink in the area, right? So I went to the landlord. Then he's come giving me some excuse about, oh, it was the city's fault. No, it had nothing to do with the city. It's in the building. How's that the city's fault? Wasn't nothing going on. And they tried to push it off on them, because I created
Mm.
a list of everything that got damaged.
Right. Right.
So I was like, okay, it's time for me to move.
Yeah.
I found me another place even closer to what I needed.
Mhm.
Perfect. And I think I just completed my 1 year. I was on my second month to month.
Mhm.
Cool. Let me take my month rent and find me a place. And I found the place, and not a lot, but a few of the young men that I work with, they wanted to help me move. They came over. I said, man, listen, it's going to be a pizza and some juice day. I said, y'all want some chicken and some pizza?
Mhm.
I think they said pizza. Cool. Let's go get this stuff on this U-Haul. And they helped me move, man. And that was my worst, well, out of the few places that I rented, that was probably my worst experience.
Mhm.
And
Gotcha.
then I met my wife. That when I moved to that last place I rented, I met my wife. And
Again, every move, every place has a purpose to it. I mean, if things went one way or another, you could talk about a very different situation. And again, you met your wife like at a gas station, so That's
Yes.
literally seconds before a good thing happens. So, but let's flip it over to the other side. So we got the renting. Again, renting can be a good option depending on your situation. If you need flexibility, you don't want a lot of those responsibilities, then renting, or you see other ways, places you can put your money that could give you a high rate of return. Then renting is certainly could be a good option for people. But let's talk about some of the buying. So again, and like I said, I went in with a buying mindset. I just did not want to rent when I can own. And so, and especially back then, that was before the housing bubble really kind of shot up to these exorbitant numbers. But I was able to find one at a decent price, put a decent down payment on. My credit was good. So again, my monthly payment might have been like $800 a month or something like that. I mean, it was pretty reasonable. Plus, like I said, the filing your taxes, you get the write off your mortgage interest, and just all those kind of things you can do. But typically, real estate typically appreciates slightly faster than inflation. So again, that's one reason to why to buy versus own, because again, you're getting something back. You're building equity in your house, and that you could potentially turn over. Certainly in a seller's market, which I think we're kind of in at this point. Because I think that again, there's a shortage. People are looking for homes. Whether or not they can afford them or not, that's a different story. But certainly the country is certainly looking for an increase in home building because there's just not a lot to go around. And I know if you can't build like land, people are building up. So I mean, in my area, coach, they're putting up housing complexes. Like all the malls are closing. Big malls in my area are closing, and they're just replacing it with townhomes or condos or apartment buildings. That's just it's like automatic. So I got I know at least 3 malls in my area within like a 15-minute drive of me that have basically they're shutting down, or half the malls are sort of out of business. You got a few legacy stores that are still surviving. They're knocking down these places, and they're gonna put some real estate properties up there. But yeah, typically you get a higher appreciation than that of inflation, faster than inflation. Another advantage, again, that sense of stability. So again, this is something where if you are again settle down, you get married. Like I said, coach, he got married, uh, um, and then bought a house shortly thereafter. I kind of already had my spot, but again, I met my wife shortly after, and then she moved in. But yeah, that sense of home, you start to. So again, buying a home is a very emotional decision, and especially when you're dealing with another person, even though you love them, they may have different interests, they may have different things that they value in a home. Now guys typically, like, I never cared, as long as I got sort of like basics down. It's like, you want certain things, I was like, I kind of let my wife if she wants certain things, but all I need is my kind of the room to myself, and I got my gym in my basement, and you can do anything you want with the house. I'm not so anal about house has this, and this. But like I think what you were saying earlier, as far as the place being safe, and again, a place where I think I can launch from here, or that we can launch a future from here. And like I said in the picture, it doesn't have to be this big house. You don't have to go and buy an $800,000-$900,000 house, at least in my area anyway, right away. You can start with something small and start to build equity from there. But again, you're basically saying, this is where we're gonna establish some roots. I'm secure in my job placement. I'm gonna be here at least for a few years, and at least that's the hope that you go into it with. But that sense of where you can start, having a family, have your first child and whatnot. I was glad that my first child was born in a house versus an apartment complex. But your thoughts on this one, Coach? That sense when you bought that house for the first time, what was that sense like? What did you feel like when you got the keys, you went in for the first time? What was that experience like for you when you bought your first home?
I mean, it was definitely an exciting time because, like I said, everything pretty much within the home was new, and the location, really excited me because I could catch the transportation to work. I didn't have to drive downtown Chicago which could have been an hour-long drive, hour and a
Mhm.
half long drive, depending
Yeah.
on traffic. So I was able, and I had free uh, public transportation passes being a veteran. I didn't have to pay to ride. So perfect. And it was, like I said, it was a two-bedroom home. Two-bedroom home. It wasn't nothing really big, and we got it for under $100,000.
Yep.
And the value of it today is triple. So it
You
was
still own it?
perfect.
You said you still own it,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes. So we're just waiting for the right offer. Somebody come through with the right numbers.
Yeah.
We getting older. I don't, my wife, she talks about it all the time. She don't see us really driving up to Chicago like that.
Mhm.
We get in, we want to be in a nice, warmer place. Chicago winters, Brother Bennett, man. Listen, man, some of the brutalest in the country,
I can imagine.
really. But, so we're going to see over the next year, and it's a perfect place for a family. And you're right, man. Just you and your wife, and you not sure about children. It would be a good thing to buy a house, sort of a smaller house,
Yeah.
smaller home.
Yeah.
You don't want to get a 3 or 4 bedroom and only one bedroom is going to be used.
Right.
Maybe a 2 bedroom for a guest or family member visit. Basement, yay or nay. Uh,
Mhm.
you also have to think about, enough storage, things like that. A garage, preferably an attached garage to the home. If not, some form of designated parking area. Again, I was talking to my son, and I'll be quick. Now that he's doing his thing, making good money, uh, I've talked to him about buying a small condo for himself, little townhouse, something like that for
Yeah.
himself. So even if he's not going to be there, you know, every day, every week, maybe find a roommate or rent that location out,
Yeah.
because he's already said that he's going to drive. He hasn't been home in 2 months.
Oh man.
I'll put it like that. He's get he enjoys driving the truck, which is a good thing.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
he's been to California twice, Florida twice. He's been up around Philadelphia. He's been Texas. He's riding around the country,
Mhm.
and his conversations are totally different.
Yeah.
It's like his thinking is becoming forward thinking and a man, and I can just sit back, like, keep doing what you're doing. I tell him all the time, man, I'm proud of him, and that when he gets to that place, maybe look to buy maybe a 2 bedroom condo, 1 or 2 bedroom, depending,
Mhm. Right.
so he can have a place to really come home to and relax. When he comes to relax, he can go to his own place, have his own rules. Because around me, he got to have rules.
Yeah.
So he can go spread out how he want. He's not a big partier, so I have him get it. I have him get his man cave nice and pristine for him, because
Gotcha.
I believe in that wholeheartedly.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Next point here on the again, the benefits of home ownership, and again, some of these things should feel kind of natural to you. Fixed rate loan payments are static. But again, you may buy depending on your situation. Now I wouldn't recommend, especially with the markets being the way they were. I know certainly coming out of the pandemic, you had those interest rates just going up like every month or every quarter, and folks who had those variable rate loans got crushed. You might have had like a $500 payment became a $1,500 payment because, again, just the those interest hikes that taking place. So again, having a fixed, if you get like a 20-year, 15 or 30-year, depending on your situation, at least again having that consistency of knowing where it's going. And the other thing also you got to keep in mind that apartments have gone up. Again, in my area, 1,500 is not going to get you a whole lot. You talking 2,500, 35. I mean, where I'm up in northern Jersey, that's near the city, 3,500 for an apartment. So I mean, it is the rental values, and especially because the housing market increased so much. So again, if you can't buy a house, where you going to live, right? So again, so the demand for apartment space has gone up dramatically in certain places, 87 to 124%. So again, even if the property tax values and property taxes rise, other loan related payments remain flat. So again, at least you have, school districts and whatnot. The biggest thing for variable is going to be your property taxes, and that usually goes up because of schools and school boards. That's the bulk of where your taxes go, is for the schools. And so again, those are things you got to be mindful of. The nicer communities typically have better schools, and therefore your property taxes are going to be a lot higher there. But again, good thing about it is, again, those property taxes are typically deductible. So again, keep that in mind, not only for federal, but then also for state. We got a program here in New Jersey called the Anchor Program, where they'll give you like a rebate back on whether you're on your property taxes. And I think even renters get something. They don't get as much as the homeowners do, but they try to give you something. If you apply every year, it's called an Anchor Program. They'll give you that opportunity to get some money back, and usually it could be $1,000, $1,500, depending on your particular situation. But I know just kids coming out of college, like my daughters, like two of them, like they're itching to get out, but they know that they can't, in this area, on their salaries, they can't afford yet to get a place of their own. And a lot of people in their age bracket, they got roommates, 2 roommates, 4 roommates, and then you got to deal with the dynamic, because again, you can be besties with somebody, but you maybe can't live with them like that. You know what I mean? There's just relationships that you need space. So finding the right roommates to partner with, if you're going to do something like that, is it can be very difficult. So these are things that you have to consider why buying a home makes sense. And again, I knew this lesson almost 30 years ago. That if I rented a place, I know all that money basically went down the drain, so to speak. But I knew that at least getting into the market, at least I can get something back and get those tax advantages and incentives and whatnot, and I can certainly build some equity that I could possibly leverage in the future. So, Coach, any thoughts on this one?
I mean, like you mentioned, man, listen, man, with a variable rate, I wouldn't recommend nobody get a
Yeah.
variable rate. And I believe, that was one of the major causes of the home crash, and why a lot of, I guess, people living from check to check got caught up in that because they believed that they were going to refinance at a lower rate. And that was the trick bag. You give them a percentage or two lower rate, give it to them for 6 months, a year. Next thing you know, boom, interest rates skyrocket.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can't make payments. Now everybody's losing their home. And now there's a surplus of homes, but the people are suffering the most. You almost putting people in that have built equity in their home for years. It's like you just stole it right from up under them. And the government, it's almost like they had, to me, I used to think, are they in cahoots with these other people? Because you bail out major airlines, you bail out car people that make millions of dollars a day, a week off of selling cars. And the people who work hard, work in these factories, you allow them to get their properties taken for pennies on the dollar and resold to another family coming in, making just as much money.
Yeah.
So it just used to, and that's why I used to think like, nah, wait. I used to tell myself, wait, it'll happen. It'll happen for me. And it did, so, and now, if we were to have something like this ever again, like I said, even now in this time, a lot of what me and my wife has built is secured and able to get into what we want. Every home was new.
Mm-hmm.
It was newly built.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna, even now, hopefully, like I said, before Christmas, man, I'm got my fingers tight. If it's by my birthday, which is February the 8th, then we're just waiting on the final I guess the completion of the home. And I'm not looking for a house to be on the market a long
Right.
time because we're leaving some things here that are great selling points today. Because right now, Brother Benny, when they build a new home, they don't have a refrigerator in them like they used to.
Yeah, a lot of the options. Well, if they do everything is like a la carte. You know what I mean?
Yes,
So it's like
but that's something that has to be like by default. If the
no,
house is
no, right.
done,
You got to get well, but I think part of that is the consumer also because the realtors, especially when it comes to the options, they're always going to give you like the cheapest stuff. You know what I mean? Where if you went out on your own, you can do your own research on buying the refrigerator. You use your consumer reports. You find a deal at Best Buy or one of these, commercial stores. You could probably because again, every option that they're going to sell you, they're going to try to have a markup on it. So the refrigerator might
yes,
be
and
$1,500, but they want to sell it to you for $2,000. Or if it's $2,000 refrigerator, they want to sell it to you for $2,500 because again,
but
every
bro,
option has to have a cut.
but again, Brother Bennett, those are things you can also negotiate in the price that you're buying the home. You don't have to go with their set price.
Mm-hmm.
You can negotiate that, like you said, a la carte. All of those things, the kitchen appliances, any fixtures, like maybe you want some more outlets. All of those things could be negotiated in the
Mm-hmm.
price. What you would pay for that service could be deducted from the
Mm-hmm.
price of the home.
Right.
And the bill the real estate agent ain't gonna necessarily put that information
Right.
there.
I'm
But
talking more so about the builder or the development
if you go to
company.
the
I'm
builder,
saying, but a
they'll
lot
go,
of
but
times they want to give you not necessarily the premium option, or they'll sell something of a lower quality because it increases their profit margin. So even if you negotiate, you still have to ask yourself, do I want this? Or if you're brand particular, like if you want a KitchenAid refrigerator, you know, and they don't offer that, they offer some other brand or whatever. It's like, no, I want a KitchenAid. So again, take that out the equation. Or like you said, then take 1,500 off the price of the house because I'm not buying a refrigerator from you or something, things like that. Some people can get very particular about the quality of appliances, certain brands of appliances that they
yes,
want,
because we want
or
Samsung, we like
finishes,
Samsung.
or what I'm saying. So again, you may want to um um and again, now some are better than others. Some of the more higher end ones, like in our area, they got this Hovanian homes that they're like one of the sort of the luxury places, like the complexes they build now. It's like the house is like a million plus, that kind of thing. They may give you that sense of it, but some of the cheaper development companies, a lot of even from the building materials themselves, you're not necessarily getting the best of the best materials, especially when you buy the new, especially now. So that's why a lot of people, you would probably want to buy a house that might be 20, 30 years old. Because again, the quality build may be better then than it is now. Because again, especially with the housing, they're trying to put these houses up overnight. Are you building houses with the best material? So a new house even may not be the best option. And again, we can talk about that when we get to the buying tips, but that is something to consider. If you think the quality of the craftsmanship is going down for the purpose of just simply putting them up, then again, go with something a little bit older, or at least from an era where you think the quality was better. Those are, at least that in my view. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think new home construction, from what I've been hearing from people, is like within the first couple of years you always start seeing cracks in the foundation because again the house wasn't set properly, and once it starts to settle, you start seeing these imperfections even in the new houses pretty quickly. So um, that's certainly been my experience, or from persons that I've talked to about it. But um, we got one more, starting to close out the show tonight. So again, the emotional benefits, and again, this can be a plus, but it can be dangerous at the same time. Again, buying a house is an emotional decision. 79% of people believe buying a house changed them for the better. And I can certainly I think Coach and we can agree with that. Because again, if you didn't know how to use a hammer, well, guess what? You better learn quick. Because again, if you think you're going to be paying a handyman or somebody to come over and just fix everything when it's broken or whatever. No, if you want to save some money, some of these skills, some of these tools, you need to start to learn how to do on your own. Get a tool, get a set of tools. Some basic tools that go into your garage or what have you. In fact, David was sharing last week. Home Depot, they're offering free classes on electrical, on plumbing, on general contracting. So again, if you don't have those kind of skills, that might be a place to go where you can sign up and take these classes and start learning how to use certain things. Back in the day, Coach, we had metal shop, we had wood shop, we had, auto shop. We had all these different programs that was offered through the schools that certainly at least introduced us to some of those basic skill sets. But it's an emotional decision. So again, 79% people think they're better off. Yeah, because you in a lot of ways you have to be, because when you own something, there's a pride that comes with that. You might have been in an apartment, you might not have cared if something happened in the apartment because you said, okay, well, the landlord will take care of it. But now, guess what? No one's going to bail you out. So you're going to be much more careful in terms of how you operate and move in the house. Over 80% of homeowners said they would not go back to renting a home, and 88% of homeowners believe that buying a home was the best decision that they ever made. So again, it's definitely something that you can get all those things from it. But again, home ownership, though, again, with such an acquisition, there are responsibilities. Making sure your taxes is up, making sure your insurance is up, making sure that you, certain things, you don't let things linger. If repairs need to be made, and like I said, some situations, a home can become a money pit. What if you live in an area where the home gets, you're in Florida, whatever, hurricane comes out and gets you, do they cover flooding? And if you don't, because we had some rain over the last 2 days, Coach, my boss, she was like, oh, my husband called me up. We got water in the basement. And that can introduce a whole host of problems, not only structural foundational issues, you got to deal with mold and a variety of different things that are there. So again, and a few people I work with, they've had to get French drain put in. If I know at least three people just in my job who within the past year have had to have major foundational work, major basement work done to their homes for water damage because of pending storms and whatnot that comes down. Louisville doesn't strike me as a place that has a lot of storms or potential storms. At least you're not near a coast, so you're not going to get those. But what do you guys get? Tornadoes or something? What do you guys get?
Brother Bennett, Kentucky sits right along that hot and cold line. Mm-hmm. So they get violent thunderstorms. This past summer alone, we've had at least 5 or 6 tornadoes come through the state.
Right.
And the Ohio River flooded within, I'd say, at least a mile past this bank. It flooded. And yeah, it was a lot of people affected by it that live in certain areas. See, I live in southern Indiana today, and I live up on a hill. I call it the hill. Right. So, but it's 2 exits outside of Louisville. That's how close it is, right? So I've always been cognizant of make sure I find a home that has a high elevation. Yeah. To me, I've been that since I was in the military when some engineers picked out our location, and first storm we have, our whole compound is flooded. So I said I won't listen to nobody but myself. Find the elevation that's high.
Yeah.
And it's been working ever since. I never really had issues with any type of water damage due to high storms. We got the first part of that storm that y'all got, because it was circling about, and we were catching part of it for 2 days. Right. So now it's sort of moved on northeast. I don't know. If
it's raining now. It's been raining the last 2 days, just straight.
Okay, so it's sort of just going in a circle, but it's going sort of northeast.
Yeah,
so we getting what you get.
Yeah, but I told my wife was working from home earlier today. I said, just check the basement, just make sure. Make sure everything is good, because you can leave it for a minute and and something can happen. So, but with that, we're starting to land this plane on the show. So again, we just wanted to again kind of prime you guys for some of the conversations that we're going to have over the next few weeks. So again, we're going to move in the direction of for those who are considering home ownership. So again, some tips in terms of what you need to be doing when you're buying a home, financing, things of that nature. We're going to kind of cover some of those subjects over the next couple of weeks, and hopefully those are things that will be useful to you. If you're a young person, don't necessarily knock off renting, or if you're going to buy, don't think you got to go for the bomb, the big purchase. You can start off small or relatively small, either a small home or a condo or something, but get into something where, again, you can get some benefit from it, some tax advantages and whatnot, or whatever. And the way they're making these apartments today, and some of the even the condos, they're making these apartments now almost like hotels. It's like, if you go into a hotel, there's like a lobby area. So they're building these hotels that have like Starbucks level stores and vendors on the first floor. So again, you go out your apartment, you go downstairs, there's like a Starbucks or some sort of eatery or something right there that you can kind of go and get out, just like when you go to a hotel. They got full gyms, they have open roofs, so you can go up there, and they got pool tables and stuff like that up there. So again, they're really, because my one of my relatives, her daughter lives in Philly, and we went to her spot, and you see the same kind of model. Like I said, there's kind of everyone's sort of copycat and put these same kind of units up. But you walk through the place, you think you're in a hotel, versus that of an apartment or a traditional condo condominium building. And so again, some perks. I think they're certainly starting to attract more Gen Zers and those kind of buyers who want that kind of flexibility, not necessarily being tied down to something, but giving them like an experience that they can want to hang out, like I said, on the roof and throw a party up there. In fact, you can reserve, if you want that space reserved for a party, you can reserve it and then host guests up there. When she first moved in, they had a sort of like an apartment warmer for her there and whatnot. So some very interesting things that they're doing with some of these new developments and the designs of what they're putting into these properties and whatnot. So very very new concepts that I was able to see. But yeah, expect from us, kind of dial in on the buying piece. But again, renting can be a good option, especially as you're trying to establish your career. So, Coach, with that, any last words as we start to land this plane?
Nah, man. Listen, if you're young or old or whatever age you are, and now that the economy has taken a turn for what we are starting to see, and it's really important to start thinking about the intentions of owning a home versus renting. I would also recommend, if you know you want to rent, maybe finding a roommate, someone that could cut the cost in half, or possibly someone that you can trust, obviously, and ensure that everybody's on the same page when it comes to taking care of their financial responsibilities.
Yeah, for sure.
Stay away from friends and family members,
right. As well as people who can just take care of themselves. Because again, you don't want to be.
Yes.
You don't want an. We're going to show our age, Coach. You don't want an Oscar Madison for a roommate. You know what I mean? Or I don't know if you want a Felix Unger as a roommate, but I'm just saying you want somebody who you can be compatible with. They clean up after themselves and just it's about responsibility. If you got to do shift stuff, okay, set up a schedule where certain responsibilities for the apartment that you handle. That's a working in of itself, and that might be a conversation for a future for a future show. But with that, just as a reminder again, for those who who are joining tonight, again, this is our personal mailbox. So again, nextgentraining101@gmail.com. Post your questions there. Again, we're looking to start to build out content based on questions that you may ask, right? So again, share this link, share this email with persons who could you think who could benefit from the content that we're sharing. And so post the question there. We'll check the queue as questions come in. We'll start to form shows. We'll even post the question there if you want to give your name and where you're from, just the city and state. You don't need to do anything else than that. But Peter from Florida or whatever, or from Louisville. Put your information in, and that'll be a basis for the show. So we want to get bunches, 2-3 questions a show that we can sort of uh, uh, answer and have a conversation with ourselves, and hopefully you can get some benefit out of that. But we really want to make ourselves of service to those who could certainly benefit from what we know. And so I'm definitely looking forward to the content that we can build off of in the input that you can have, the audience, with what we do from here. But with that, Coach, as always, it's a pleasure certainly to share the forum with you. We do back to back. We do the Wednesday sports show, and I know you were coming from a game, so I really appreciate the fact that you came up on the one-on-one last night, and then we're certainly tied together again on tonight's show talking about real estate. And so I'm just really like I said, it's always a pleasure to share this stage with you. And just keep me posted on not only the games but also your move. I didn't know you were going to be this aggressive until about January getting out. So definitely keep us up to date on what goes on there.
Sure.
But for sure, for those who've joined us tonight, make sure you hit the like button as you certainly leave the show. And again, any super chats that you have, you see our super chats been scrolling at the bottom of the screens all night. So we'd appreciate any support that you may give us. But certainly for myself, Mr. Bennett, and for the coach, Coach Ferg, this has been Next Gen Training here on the Spartan HQ Network. Stay tuned for certainly tomorrow night's show, Friday's show. We got our guy Sean. He certainly has his show that's Straight Talk show that comes on Fridays. Then you got the Hangout show on Saturday night, and then the Gray Area Sunday. Coming up. So more content to come on the channel. We appreciate your support. But for the rest of you, take care. God bless, and we will see you next time. Good night.